knifings, mutilations, beatings, and I've participated in actual crucifixions of the humans.
And if that weren't heinous enough, this savage monster often raped and mutilated his victims' dead bodies. His first victim was his own mother, who he stabbed to death with a kitchen knife. But Lucas didn't work alone. Together with his homosexual lover, Otis Toole, Lucas organized a gruesome murder spree that lasted 13 years and spanned over 36 states. Lucas was finally caught and convicted in 1983 and is currently serving 2 life sentences on death row in Huntsville Prison in Texas. Together for the first time, my guests today will share their stories about how their loved ones were brutally murdered at the hands of this country's most notorious sex killers. And a little while later, we're going to meet a woman who knew the serial killers firsthand. And she said one of them used to call her Mama, and she believes there is no way that he could have killed anyone. But first, let me introduce to you Paula. Paula's husband, Clemmy, was shot in the chest in cold blood and was then left to die. Paula, I want you to take us back to the night. Tell me about how you found out about your husband.
My husband was 30 years old when he was murdered by Henry Lucas. Otis him. He was the police for the Huntington Police Department. He was traffic. He was having lunch in a little wooded area towards the outskirts of the city. And he had eaten half of his lunch, and he saw a station wagon down the road from him, and he thought maybe someone had car trouble or a flat tire or something, so he went to see if he could help them. He went down there, and Otis was dressed in drag. He did that sometimes. And they were
wearing women's clothes.
Yes, he was dressed as a woman. They were having sex in the car at the time. In the back of the car, they had stolen some televisions. They had also robbed a gas station in town. My husband did not have a screen in the back of his car for transporting prisoners, so he reached in to the mic to call for backup. While he was doing that, they grabbed his gun. They got his gun.
No, wait. He knew there was something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He had first approached to try to help.
Yeah.
Then he saw there was something wrong.
He saw
2 people were making love in a car.
Well, all the TVs in the back of the car.
That's what he saw, and
yeah,
he knew there was something wrong.
When everybody's birthday and everyone was getting a TV.
Right. He called for help.
He never got to make the phone calls. He was reaching for the mic.
They got out of the car?
Yeah, he had them out of the car.
Okay.
And he had them with him. He was reaching for the mic to call the station, and they grabbed his gun. At that time, they handcuffed him, and I think he knew he was going to die. He asked them if he could write me a note, and they said, sure, fine. And the note said, kiss the girls for me. I think he's going to kill me. I love you all so much. And then they shot him. They shot him once through the chest. It hit his pulmonary artery, and he was probably dead within 3 minutes. They took off and went to Maryland, I believe.
You have 2 daughters.
Yeah, Laura and Kathleen. They were 7 and 3 when their daddy was killed.
Have they ever been charged with the murder of your husband, a policeman?
Yes, what happened from 1976 when Clem was killed up until 1984, we did not know. As a matter of fact, the sheriff of the county who was doing the investigation had ruled it a suicide.
That your husband died a suicide?
Yes.
Now, can't the police department tell whether a man killed himself or someone killed him?
I think it was probably politically expedient. It was an election year, and I don't believe he wanted to have an unsolved policeman's murder on his hands. Clem was shot on the side of the street. Like I say, it was in the park on the outskirts of the city, where one side of the street is the city limits and across the street's the county line. He was shot on the county side of the street.
Paula, did you ever believe that your husband would take his own life?
Never.
Never?
He loved his girls. He loved me. We had been married 10 years.
You didn't have any problems any more than anyone else?
No.
Did you tell them that he wouldn't take his own life in the middle of the afternoon like that?
Of course. And it was just, it seemed as though,
awful for you.
because I was saying, no, you're wrong about this, it was just one horrible thing after another as far as the way the investigation was carried on. They closed it. That was it. They didn't want to hear me saying, no, you're wrong.
You know, the awful thing of having your husband killed and then to tell them, for them to say to you, you know, this is a suicide. That is, when the killers confessed, what was that like? Was that man who said it was a suicide still in power?
He was no longer the sheriff. He had run for mayor and was defeated 2 times. He never was in law enforcement after that.
Do you feel vindicated at all?
He still believes what he believes, but I do. I know. Henry knew things. What had happened, it was from 76 to 84. I always told the girls their father was murdered. He loved us. He loved them. He would not take himself out of their life ever. On purpose.
Yes, I didn't realize that you also had to deal with the fact that your daughters in a small town were told they killed themselves.
I always prayed that my girls would know. I didn't think I would ever find out, but I went to work one day, and out of the clear blue, a friend called me and asked me if I'd gotten the newspaper yet, and she said, it's there. She always said someone would confess sometime, and it was there in the newspaper. They started a task force, sent people to Florida, 3 officers to Florida to talk to Otis, 3 officers to Texas to talk to Henry. He picked Clem's picture out of a bunch of pictures. He told them things that it was not public knowledge. He was brought back to Huntington, and he led them to the scene where he murdered Clem. Then the grand jury indicted him. They brought him back in January of 85 and sentenced him to...
How do you feel about him now, the killer?
I want him to die.
When we come back, we'll hear the story of a family whose newlywed daughter was also murdered by this same serial killer. She was 18, married a year. Stay with us.
In a brand new magical adventure filled with music, laughter, and love. As Steven Spielberg presents An American Tale, Fievel Goes West. Rated G. Starts Friday, November 22nd.
You ready to go on? Oh, I don't know. My lips are so dry. Not anymore.
Blistex ointment relieves dry lips fast because it's the only leading product that contains moisture for fast relief.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Blistex works fast.
With alcohol and drugs, there comes a crossroads when you know you must make a decision and go somewhere. But every direction seems blocked. The thing is, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to clear a path by yourself. You just have to make the call.
Crossroads, the first step to effective care, recovery, and family support. Call 922-7522, day or night.
At Bell's, we gift wrap your packages free, year-round. And during the holidays, we'll not only wrap and mail your gifts, we'll pay the postage on any single item over $30 sent anywhere in the U.S. At Bell's, when it comes to gift giving, we deliver, which is very important for busy shoppers, because during the holidays, time flies. Bell's, we give you good service because we want you to come back.
Ha! I'm Florida football coach Steve Spurrier.
And I'm voice of the Gators, Mick Hubert. We would like to invite you to relive all the excitement of Gator football each week on Florida Football with Steve Spurrier.
That's right, Mick. We'll have all the exciting highlights from each week's game, special features, and also hear from the players.
So catch all the action each week on Florida Football with Steve Spurrier.
Florida Football, Sunday following the late news.
Well, we was on a rampage, a murder rampage. We was just murdering everybody got in the way, you know. Whatever hit us at the moment, it's just gone, you know.
We are talking to families whose loved ones were murdered by two of the country's worst sex killers. And by the way, they have confessed to over 300 of the most gruesome murders on record. It involved mutilation, cannibalism, and even necrophilia. We want you to meet Ruby and Harold. 10 years ago, their 18-year-old daughter, Geraldine, was steps away from her front door when she saw that there were strangers in the house. Harold's the father. Take us back and tell us what happened. She was coming home and she had groceries in her hand. Is that correct?
Yes.
And she saw there was somebody in her house, a bride of a year, 18 years of age. What happened, Harold?
Well, she walked in the door, and evidently two was standing pretty close by. And when she saw him, she screamed, and he fired one shot, which hit her in the side. And evidently when she was falling, he fired another one that hit her behind the head.
Now, she didn't know them. They had come,
No.
what was their story, to ransack the house?
They got off a train, he and Lucas and two children. And they had walking down a dirt road just looking for anything to rob, a burglary, you know. And when they got to one house, there were people at home, so they went on down the dirt road to where my daughter lived. And no one was at home, so they got in the house. And I think two, the one that crawled through the window and unlocked the front door and let Lucas and the two kids in.
They were there to rob.
To take anything they could.
Did they ever say why they killed her?
Two said she screamed, and he didn't like people that scream, especially women, so he shot her twice.
Now, when you found out about, well, how did you find out about what happened to your daughter?
Well, I had gone and taken my youngest daughter to the orthodontist that afternoon, and we was coming home, and it was just storming. And we talked about how glad we would be when we got home, you know, just in out of the storm. I had been there about 5 minutes when Cindy, my daughter, came and said, "Mother, we have to go to Boniface. The Gerald's been admitted to the hospital." And I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "She's sick and she needs us." And that's all they would tell me, but they acted strange, and they kept, Cindy and her husband kept getting coffee together and all this stuff, you know. And I thought, well, that's not like them just to go there. And I kept thinking, well, if something's wrong. So all the way over there, I kept praying, Lord, let her be all right, you know. And then when I got to the hospital, I went in, and there stood Gerald, my daughter's husband, with blood all over him. And his mother was standing there with him, and she started screaming, "Ruby, I'm so sorry." And then after that, they came. I guess I was hysterical. I do remember screaming and, you know, no, this can't be happening. Then they came and gave me a shot. And then after that, I was sort of out of it for a while. And it's just...
Why, I wonder why they did they tell you the truth, sister?
No.
They lied to you and said that
Well, not at that point. What happened was Dad called me, and I answered the phone, and he said they were living next door to us, only he was at work, which was 20 miles away. And he said, you need to get your mother and go to the hospital in Boniface. He said, Gerald's been shot, but don't tell your mother.
I see.
And that's why we did, and we were trying to protect her, and that's why I told the little fib, and I led her to believe that just she and I would go to the hospital, and as soon as she left to change clothes, I looked at my husband and I said, you've got to drive. I said, my sister's been shot, and that's all I knew.
Now, after this happened, you pretty much went out of it for
I did. Yes.
A couple of months.
Well, Sally, I withdrew from people. I mean, people care, yes, but a lot of people are curious.
Yeah.
And all this, you know, and they began to talk to me about these things, and it was just hard to answer. I mean, I didn't have the answers. So I didn't know what to do. And then, I just, for about 3 months, I didn't want to go to the restaurant. We own a restaurant, and I didn't want to go. I just didn't want to talk. I even forgot my makeup, stuff like that, you know, that women don't do.
I wanted to bring that up because it's important for people to understand the victims, the people that are left, their side of it. Cindy, you wanted to see an autopsy on your sister.
Well, I didn't see the actual autopsy being done. There were 2 autopsies done in the beginning, which delayed the funeral, so she was buried on Valentine's Day, which is hard. But I did want to read it because there were questions that I had to have the answers to. And at this point, the law enforcement, I think while they cooperated with Daddy, they didn't really want to talk to me because I was just the sister. I mean, was the way they felt. And, you know, my feelings were important, too, because we're a very close-knit family. Things that I needed to have answered was she sexually assaulted? And, you know, this was, remember, this is before we knew who the killers were. At this point, we had no idea. And there were just things I needed to know about. That was one of the questions. Another question was she pregnant? You know, were we going to be denied that life as well? And she was not. But she was not sexually assaulted, and that has helped tremendously since we found out about Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole and what they usually did to their victims.
Dad?
When after Toole shot her, they picked her up and strode blood all the way to an automobile, and they put her in the car.
Her car.
In her car, and evidently they were going to steal the car and take her off with them. But the car wouldn't start. And so when her husband come home, which was only about 15, 20 minutes later, he saw blood on the door and in the living room and on the porch. And it had started raining then, and he saw the car, the windows had fogged up, and that's where he discovered her in the floorboard of the car.
Must have been awful.
Toole and Lucas was going to haul her off, and, well, you know the rest of the story.
One of the... Are you sure you should have read the autopsy report?
It was very hard when I had to fight to get it because they kept saying, you don't want to read this, you don't want to read this, and I was saying, I know how graphic it is. I am a nurse. I understand the terminology.
Oh, okay.
And it was very important that I have those questions answered, but it was the most awful thing to read.
I'll tell you why. I have a belief that even if you're family, unless you're a professional, you shouldn't. Now, they made you...
yes, they did.
They made you see it.
What happened?
You refused to believe that he'd been killed, that he had committed suicide, so they showed you some awfully gruesome evidence, and
They called me down to the station to show me the crime scene. They said, you know, if you see the crime scene, you'll know that he did it. And when I went with my father, and the first pictures they pulled out were autopsy pictures.
See, I think that is about as cruel.
I started to cry and say, no, 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 and they just kind of laughed.
When we come back, we're going to meet a sheriff who was called to the scene of the crime. When he got there, he found out in horror the murder victim was his father. Later, we'll introduce you to a woman who the serial killers called Mama. She still says there's no way one of them could have killed anyone. Don't go away.
Sometimes I don't want it all, but I've got it.
Look at your hands.
Oh, I'm not complaining. When it gets to me and I'm irregular, I take Correctol. Correctol's made just for women. It combines a gentle laxative with a softener and works overnight. As much as I'm ready to take care of everyone else, I need to be taken care of too. Correctol, the gentle laxative more women prefer.
Living, loving, growing, home to proud America. Together, working, caring, sharing, hometown proud America. IGA, hometown proud America. IGA, hometown proud America. IGA.
My name is James Ford. One capsule twice a day, okay? I'm an Eckerd pharmacist. You will feel better. I'm also the chairman of the Cocoa Housing Authority. And schedule this new pass. I'm very involved with the Sickle Cell Foundation. I have to, and a youth program called the Young Men of Distinction. All tomorrow for you. You know, I got this friend that says, does Eckerd mind all the time you spend helping people? I said, no. That's what an Eckerd pharmacist does.
In our hearts, every step we take's a brand new start. This road we walk in friendship leads us to a world of peace, and the circle comes together in our hearts.
Join the crop walk for the hungry in your community. You're part of the circle too.
And the circle comes together in our hearts.
A message from Church World Service.
They're scouting high and low, looking everywhere. They may even come to your home because it's the 4th annual Scouting for Food. November 16th, area scouts will be visiting your home collecting donated non-perishable food to help feed those in need. Donations may be also dropped off November 13th through 19th at the Bay County Food World stores and Gulf County IGA stores. For more information, please call 784-8172. Do a good turn. Help the Boy Scouts fill those bags with hope.
Outrageous sisters who hate each other because we had the same man's babies.
Yeah,
Hey. Next, Sally.
Well, I stabbed her with a knife, but I just picked it up off the blanket and brought it around, hit her right in the chest with it. I took her panties and her bra off, and I had sexual intercourse with her. I guess it got to be a part of my life, having sexual intercourse with the dead.
We're talking to families whose loved ones were murdered by two of the worst sex killers in this country. Please meet John McDaniel. John is a sheriff. John, almost 11 years ago, you responded to a routine call. It was an armed robbery. I think it was a convenience store, was it not?
Correct.
And it turned out it wasn't routine at all. Will you tell us about that night?
On October the 4th, 1980, I was elected sheriff in Jackson County. And my father had been a part of that. He was proud of that. So in December, from December to January, I was going to be on a transition team that would, in case any serious crimes came up, that I would carry it over into my administration and be able to work the cases and be sure that they were solved. On the night of December the 14th, I had one of the old patrol cars and a handheld radio, and the county is a big county, and it's 943 square miles, and so a handheld radio is not very good. So they called me and said, Johnny Mac, we've had an armed robbery at Sheffield Station north of Camelton, which is about 18, 20 miles away. So I got dressed and responded, and this was a little after midnight. say that was on the 15th. So as I drove up to the scene, there was an ambulance backed up to the door and squad cars all around. And that is on the state line of Alabama and Florida. And a neighboring city, Graceville, had sent some officers down. So there was police cars all around, lights going everywhere. And as I approached, of course, I had lost transmission with the radio. I couldn't hear and tell what was going on. And as I drove up and got out of the patrol unit and started toward the door, a boy that I had basically raised in the business began to approach me out of the store. And I said, "Donnie, what's the situation?" He says,
"It's okay, Johnny."
He says, "We got one down." So I approached and saw that it was my father. And so we carried him to Southeast Alabama Medical Center. And that was after 1 o'clock in the morning. And then 7:15 that night he passed away. He'd been beat at first with a tire tube and then shot once right behind the ear here with a .25 caliber automatic.
Dad had also been mayor of a town, hadn't he?
Yeah. A little small town called Malone, Florida. He was the mayor. He was a retired inhalation therapist, and he worked part-time at the service station to supplement his income.
So he never got to see you made sheriff.
No.
I'm sure he would have been proud. I find it awful. I find the whole thing awful, but I find it awful that the killer, when they caught him, remained in your jail for over a year.
The circuit judge that set the case on Geraldine knew me well. And he says, we need to be sure that we can properly allow him to prepare defense for his case. His attorney was there in Mariana. So Lucas. And so he spent almost a year in Mama waiting for the trials.
I don't know how the man could put up. I want to ask all of the victims' families. The two men that you say are responsible for murdering your loved ones are now alive and they're in prison. If given your choice, what would you like to see happen to them?
I think they need to execute him as soon as possible. Henry's recanted. Now he says he's a little choir boy. He didn't kill anyone. Every time he recants, he pulls the trigger again and again.
Dad, what do you want to see happen to him?
The way they change the laws now, although they're one of them under a death penalty and the other one a life, 4 25-year consecutive sentences, I still think they should get the electric chair.
Okay, now
there's always a possibility of getting out.
This family waited 7 years to find out what happened to their daughter.
7.5 years.
You're a sheriff. What do you think? I'll allow you to get off the hook if you want.
No, I believe that any serial killer should be put to death.
Okay.
Okay. Ride-by shootings, things of that nature, totally irresponsible in any way.
When we come back, we're going to meet a woman who says she knows one of the serial killers. In fact, he used to call her Mama. Says he didn't do it. And we're going to meet a man who's made a study of this and says the serial killers shouldn't die. They should be kept alive. We'll be right back.
Pages of National Geographic magazine. For only $20.
$21 a year, all the wonders of our world unfold before you in breathtaking photographs and stories. No other magazine captures life in such dazzling color. Join the Society, and every month you'll enjoy award-winning photographs that celebrate life's wonders and open your eyes to the remarkable diversity of our world. Whether you're trekking across Africa or racing to adventure, National Geographic takes you far beyond ordinary reporting for extraordinary behind-the-scenes stories, stories you won't find anywhere else. Throughout the year, you'll also receive up to 6 valuable reference maps that chart yesterday's world and today's with uncompromising accuracy. As a Society member, you'll help support important scientific research, like Jane Goodall's 30-year study of chimpanzees. National Geographic, award-winning photographs you'll never forget, captivating articles that take you along each step of the way, and outstanding maps that expand your knowledge of the world. National Geographic promises you the best and nothing less.
To join, call 1-800-334-6400 now. Charge your membership or send $21 to the National Geographic Society. National Geographic makes a great gift that lasts all year long. So call now 1-800-334-6400. That's 1-800-334-6400.
I think you're probably saying to yourself, I know I am at this point, how can human beings, we're supposed to be so-called civilized people, how do we do these things? And of course, there are two sides to every story. Let me introduce to you a woman that one of the serial killers used to call Mama. This is Betty Goodyear. And Betty feels that there's no way that Otis Toole could have killed all those people. Betty, can you tell us why?